On today's wrestling news, did WWE just spoil King and Queen of the Ring?
We had a surprise return on last night's WWE Raw.
A WWE Champion Re-Signs with the company.
And we've got all the latest on the WWE Vince McMahon sex trafficking lawsuit.
I'm Adam Wilborn.
I'm Michael Hamflett.
And this is the news. So, King and Queen of the Ring is just a week and a bit away. And all eyes are looking to who makes the final and is crowned King and Queen of the Ring for 2024. Gunther, Jey Uso, spoilers, but why are you watching this before you watch Raw? Made the semi-finals following last night's Raw, and it is Io Sky versus Lyra Valkyria on the women's side of the Raw bracket. But potential spoilers have been spotted by ex-user Twisted John X.
Oh, great name for X.
Who was
no Twisted John Thread.
No, exactly. Eagle-eyed viewer, though, because he spotted in the little graphics that they put up of, oh, make sure you tune in next week to see this, that Lyra Valkyria is completely covered, arms covered, body covered, basically, in the image. And the same applies to one Twister Stratton on the SmackDown side of things, which led people to infer that perhaps that is the Queen of the Ring final. Because, obviously, with Saudi's way that they do, well, the way that they present female wrestlers over there with their coverings across their entire body, that would make sense why they had the renders for those already made.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, Lyra Valkyria would have to get past Io Sky in the semi-finals on Raw next week. Meanwhile, Tiffany Stratton would go on a hell of a run because she'd have to beat Bianca Belair and then the winner of Nia Jax versus Jade Cargill.
Yeah.
But you know my love for Tiffany Stratton. I think she's a sensational wrestler. We've been huge fans of hers since her time in NXT. And it would be a rematch from an NXT show, of course, when they fought for the vacant NXT Women's Championship.
Of course,
Do you remember which show it was?
I can't feel like it was late last summer, but I'm struggling. The only one I've got in mind is Heatwave.
It's close.
No.
It's not right, though. It would be, of course, last year's NXT Battleground. You're grounded! Battlegrounded? But, Mom!
Feels so long ago when this year's is just around the corner.
Comes round so quicker and quicker every year, doesn't it?
Like Christmas itself in the way that it very much is my Christmas, Battleground, I think. Stay tuned for the NXT preview podcast later, wherever you get podcasts, and indeed the video version of that when we review it tomorrow.
So excited.
Because that's had an upgrade for the Vegas edition this year.
NXT's the best.
It really is, yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's a hell of a coup for NXT as well. Two very recent NXT performers making to the Queen of the Ring final, potentially.
Possibly,
yes.
Some people in the comments will no doubt be angry that we are reporting match graphics as potential news. I don't think this is one of them smoke without fire things. I think like the renders are made for whatever reason they're made for, even if it's just wrestlers appearing on, not a dark match, but like a kickoff type thing.
Yeah.
There was points made in contrast to this that both Jade and Bianca featured in marketing for the show elsewhere. Now that's not to say that the tag belts couldn't be on the line and both could fall at the semi-final stage on SmackDown. It is a stacked field on the blue brand at the moment. You kind of got 4 potential winners of all the semi-finalists. So I guess we'll see ultimately how this one plays out. But it is interesting. The Lyra Valkyria one sticks out the most to me because she's not to take the mick out the character, but she's got these wings obviously, and typically that's where the gear ends, and you do see the arms completely covered up. Again, that wouldn't be part of her aesthetic normally.
No.
So it does feel like that exists for a purpose. Maybe it's not the Queen of the Ring. I guess we'll see soon.
I wouldn't have picked either of these people, to be honest, to win Queen of the Ring if I'm truly honest. Nia Jax was my pick, but I could easily see Jade Cargill or Bianca Belair.
Was one for me.
Tiff or Lyra would be a real rocket strap moment for either of them.
Too right.
And Gunther's obviously winning the King of the Ring.
From women that are just getting their opportunities to one that had many, many years ago.
Yeah.
Lillian Garcia made a nice return to Monday Night Raw last night. It was the first time she'd obviously been on the show in years in any capacity, let alone to do ring announcing, which she did. She announced the Gunther versus Kofi Kingston King of the Ring match. And really, the headline wasn't that she was doing the announcement for that as a special guest of the night. It was that she had a really lovely moment with Samantha Irvin.
Yeah, that was nice.
Samantha Irvin looked thrilled to be announcing Lillian Garcia, who then took the microphone and was thrilled to be thrilled to be getting announced by the current announcer, and just said what a great job Samantha Irvin was doing. Kind of strange, divisive figure in the social media age, Samantha Irvin, but for the most part, just seems absolutely beloved by
a lot of people have
WWE
turned
base.
babyface on her after Mania. I'm one of them, I think it's fair to say.
I think hers hers, I'll say this, hers is a style, and for years and years and years, style was drilled out of the ring announcers, wasn't it? I think that you were supposed to be homogenised and just basically brought in line with this one size fits all.
Yeah.
And she's got so much more to offer in that role, and I think it was nice for Lilian Garcia, somebody, a survivor of some rough years and some ribbing and some all that sort of stuff, to come back and clearly have a great night.
It would be weird to be back in WWE and be like, oh, there's no bullying anymore.
It's all right, yeah. It was Greenville, South Carolina they were at, and she had posted in the day that she was backstage, but, you know, like wrestlers go back and visit friends all the time.
That's lovely.
There's no guarantee that somebody's going to be on. So to be put in that little moment and have this like clash of eras, just a sweet moment on last night's show.
Yeah, it was like you say, it's surreal nowadays when they do stuff like that it's just nice.
Yeah.
Not like commentators laughing at old announcers or...
Get her in the ring with Sandra Irvin. What are we going to do when we get there? Push her over.
Yeah.
Why?
Grab the mic out her hands.
Because she's old and you're new.
Always just remind me, though, of the classic Botchamania clip, shout out to Matthew, of Tony Chimmel doing the wild line when he keeps having to... This is the woman's gravy bowl invitation. It's women's! And then, like, King's, like, add a few more of the in there. The women's gravy bowl.
Need more of them leaked lines, if only for more Jim Ross shit and Creed.
If anyone's got a clip of that, I can never find it. Please send it me on X, because I think I cry laughing at. Because Jay goes, you know what Jim JR just said? For the love of God.
I just wish I had one of them satellite dishes.
Yeah.
I wasn't tuning in and be like, I'm just listening to them having crack the footwork.
Yeah.
This is brilliant. It's better than Raw. Oh, Creed again.
Here we go for the 400th time.
I'm sure they're crying in Raw's dead, King.
Right, should we talk about a champion that's re-signed?
Yes.
Talked about Becky Lynch's contract being up in the air recently. But Damian Priest is locked down, not like the Usos used to be when they used to put the bars on the screen. That was
Locked
weird.
down.
That was weird for a bit, wasn't it?
Did not like that.
That'll fix the dwindling viewership.
Friggin' like Snapchat filters with Alexa Bliss and Braun Strowman. We're gonna win. Win. Oh, I get what you mean now.
Damian Priest is the person who signed a new contract, though. Interesting information coming out about this from Fightful Select, though. Priest confirmed with Kathy Kelly after Raw that he has re-signed with WWE. But Fightful Select, some great reporting here saying that it really came down to the wire. His contract was up in February, and it was mere days from expiring. Bearing in mind, he had the Money in the Bank briefcase at this point, but he re-signed. I think it's one of those ones, a bit like with Drew, and one would assume with Seth and Becky as well. Mm-hmm. You're like, clock's kind of running out on this, but all parties are just ironing out the details, and quite rightly, the wrestlers getting paid what they deserve. WWE sources said they'd always planned on keeping Priest. They talked plenty before the new contract was made official. It's a multi-year deal, and apparently since Priest re-signing, WWE has restructured their talent relations. Variety also revealed that Priest has signed with Paradigm Talent Agency as well. Good stuff for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, it feels strange that we've had so many of these contracts that have been coming down to the wire, and I suppose maybe part of that restructuring is the worry that, all right, what if the person who we generally are like, we'll sort out re-sign, just goes, actually no, right at the last second, and jumps to AEW. So maybe they want to smooth that process out somewhat.
It's a paradigm shift as a WWE fan to hear these stories. For years and years and years, you were getting talent that would just sign in a year out from their date. Some would push it for the purpose of negotiation, and especially since AEW launched the idea that, well, there's somebody right there that I can go to next week if I don't re-sign now. We've talked recently about the potential death of the no-compete clauses and things like that. All of this sort of stuff feels very different to the conversations we've had on contracts previously. But yeah, like Drew, like Seth, presumably like Becky, Damian Priest right now. We had this Finn Balor as well the other week. Felt like a wrestler in a good place to get a few more years.
Great promo on Raw last night.
The next one incoming. These keep coming. The next one, of course, will be Kevin Owens, I think. Expect the speculation.
Yeah, months away from his.
So if this is
he'll stick around as well, I'd guess.
You would assume, but if this is a new pattern,
I'd love either way, either from WWE to AEW or AEW to WWE, just someone showing up and us going, yeah, they were on the other show last week.
Was the last one probably Roddy Strong? I feel like I'm forgetting one. But
that might be a right shout.
Like there's been a few. Sean Spears in NXT as well.
Yeah.
Just those like out of nowhere signings where you're like, not even sure. I think I knew they were gone. And
briefly, for a split second at WrestleMania 40, Dean Ambrose?
Yeah, what a twist that would have been. So I guess we'll see more of this, but Damien Priest, especially as a now current world champion, it would be weird to be reporting otherwise that he's really on the fence.
Yeah, it's not great for a company to have a world champion not signed to a contract. I'm joking, we all knew he was sticking around, Mox. I'm just gonna laugh, chill out everyone. Bloody hell. Hey, you can't have a joke no more. Sorry.
Moxley's going absolutely nowhere forever as well. You just listen to the Jericho podcast even now and you're like, I think it's going to be another 10 years because you've already considered it.
And put the punk date on it, basically. That's how long it'll take for Mox to ever think about going back to the Fed.
Right, we're going to pivot slightly. We're going to just have a bit of an update on the WWE Vince McMahon sex trafficking lawsuit. As usual, all the content and trigger warnings apply here. If you're uncomfortable with any content of this, please feel free to skip forward. And again, as we always say, there will be links to Rain and the various other services and resources that you can use if any of these issues in the story affect you. And obviously, in terms of reporting, it's mostly reading, so I do apologise for that. But as usual, Brandon Thurston, who's been hot with a lot of the stuff, not just reporting, but also trying to help explain it to lay people, of which we'll barely even that, let's be honest, are we? And this is just an update off the back of an update we were provided last week. At the moment, there's a lot of motions being placed to what exactly gets stricken from the record and whatnot from the original lawsuit that, of course, we all read several months ago, and then the follow-ups ever since. In this case, yesterday, McMahon's attorneys opposed Janelle Grant's motion to strike the, quote, inflammatory statements from the record. Just to sort of go back a little bit, it was on Tuesday the 23rd of April where Vince McMahon's team lodged a 29-page filing that requested that the complaint that Grant had initially lodged go into private arbitration rather than be heard in court. They argued that the arbitration was required in line with the original non-disclosure agreement, that being obviously what she signed and then she subsequently revealed within the original lawsuit. However, Janelle Grant's representation, represented by Ann Callis, filed a motion that the court strike the entirety of that statement and filed that as inflammatory. They suggest that Vince McMahon was using bullying practices and the like to try and shut that down. This is basically a counter-strike to that from Vince McMahon's legal team. Again, in layperson's terms, check Brandon Thurston's excellent Twitter account, read WrestleNomics, read Post Wrestling for all the details about this. I would hate to have this story sort of mishandled, but the sort of the pull quotes that again available from Post Wrestling and Brandon Thurston that were of note, that the Vince McMahon legal team didn't want the inclusion of, quote, private sexual text message from the defendant without including any of the plaintiff's response, defendant being Janelle Grant, the plaintiff being Vince McMahon, which are equally and often more aggressive and provocative than the defendant's communication and show not only that the relationship was consensual, but also that in many instances the plaintiff was the initiator. It goes on to state, quote, the plaintiff presumably still has all of the text messages, but she did not include them in her publicly filed complaint because she wanted to paint a, quote, distorted and false picture. Vince McMahon's side suggests that he has deleted those text messages so that they would only be available from her side. Again, you can read up on all of this through Post Wrestling, through John Pollock and Brandon Thurston, but that is the latest. There is going to be more of this back and forth. I was going to say before we have a day in court, I suppose it's if.
Yeah, it's going to rumble on and on this, like you say. It's legal ramblings right now. And I'm not going to speculate on that, obviously. No. So we'll just reiterate, please do support Rain, a fantastic place that does some amazing work and believe survivors, as we always say.
And, keep following the story. We sort of know that it's sometimes a bit of a weird pivot shift to go from the knockabout nonsense and even contract things to this kind of serious stuff. But the story is all out there. Just because it might not be at the top of the headlines everywhere, it doesn't mean it ever goes away. All the information from all the great outlets that are out there can give you everything you want on this and more.
Right, let's move on to your Twitter questions on X at WhatCultureWWE. Of course, first question today comes from Eddie Zamhari. We sort of discussed this on the SmackDown Review podcast, What Culture Wrestling podcast, wherever you get your podcast from, yesterday. But Eddie says, do you think WWE made a mistake making Cody Rhodes versus Logan Paul title versus title?
No, short answer. I think it's added real intrigue to this. At the moment, we're just in this period where it feels impossible that Cody Rhodes can lose the title. It's the blessing and the curse of a story like Cody's.
Yeah.
They took the title off Steve Austin in June when Kane threatened to set himself on fire. But they put it right back on him 24 hours later. This is back in 1998, and I use Austin as a comparison where it's like, somebody is inevitable here. So a hot shot like this, where all of a sudden Logan Paul is holding both belts and almost can't believe his luck, like, is not completely out the question. But I think that's what makes this so great, right? Like, you can visualise Cody holding up both belts. You can't Logan Paul. And if you take the belt off Logan Paul now, that's not to say that he won't want to see another match with Cody down the line, perhaps at SummerSlam in Cleveland as a
Money in the Bank.
Indeed, to get his revenge in Cleveland, or indeed win the briefcase, so he's almost got his prize, and he just gets to wait for the
chance
opportunity
for his US title.
Could do, yeah, could.
And also, the thing is, I think Cody wins, Grand Slam champion, all that good stuff. I think it would have been weird if it wasn't title for title. It'd be like, well, why does Logan Paul get a title shot but not have to put anything on the line for his? And he hasn't defended his for ages, despite being the longest reigning champion and what have you. And I'm intrigued to see what it looks like going forward. The fighting champion Cody Rhodes having to fight on two fronts, and then imagine if a Gunther comes along. It's like, that kind of takes most of your efforts, and you've still got to have maybe a second match on that PLE defending the US title as well. So. Yeah, I really like it. And the lore of Logan Paul in Saudi obviously came so close to being Roman Reigns. I think Logan Paul's a brilliant performer. So I'm really excited about it, because it was always, I think it's the best match they can do. A bit like with AJ, because, like you say, initially you're like, well, he's not dropping the title before SummerSlam at least. Yeah,
I like as well, it's not always ideal, and it can be problematic for the bookers, but ultimately, like, Becky 2 belts, MJF last year with the World and the tags. Like, you can have quite a lot of fun with champions having 2 belts, or that US title belt going into a tournament and becoming like a major prize. You've seen all these people in this King of the Ring that are getting over even in defeat. So, like, the prospect of a brand new prize on SmackDown at least to be able to fight for coming out of the show is not the worst thing either. So, like, I don't see too many negatives about this.
Stephen Blaney says, who runs the new Wrestlers Court to make sure the guys in the back are respecting the business and holding standards in the dead man's absence?
I do like this. I think it's like the Undertaker himself, when he came back a few months ago, was like, everybody seems to be getting along, wanting to work together. What the hell is wrong with this place? What happened to the business I loved? It feels, as weird as it is to visualise, to me, like it's obviously the Roman Reigns and The Rock when they're around. And maybe Seth Rollins when they're not.
Possibly.
I look at sort of, I wonder if now it's that more like that
kind of Punk as a judge in training.
Well, I mean,
he's eyeing up that seat.
He was the guy that kind of like called himself that, didn't he? The infamous sort of spat with Booker T once upon a time. But like, I just sort of imagine it's done through, like, that kind of leadership is probably done through the quiet methods now. Like, people that just carry respect without, like, literally telling you respect me, and or wearing a judge's outfit and smashing a gavel.
Orton maybe.
Orton possibly, again, not a guy that you can visualise dishing out the bollockins and like sort of doing a swagger through the halls, but the idea of, like, don't piss him off, go and double check something with him, all that sort of thing. I just imagine it's sort of, the rulers ran differently to the old. Maybe not, total speculation, it could still be great beers for boys, getting bought whenever you have an indiscretion. Like, I can't imagine the Miz, like, ruling with an iron fist, but I can imagine a lot of people kind of looking up to him or seeing him as this sort of, bizarre as it might seem, like a cornerstone type figure within the locker room.
I like that makes R-Truth like the security guard, you know, like the Judge Judy.
The bailiff.
Yeah. He's gonna run the rules for the Miz in there. Or R-Truth as a judge would be class as well.
Judge R-Truth. Actually, yeah, bring Wrestlers Court back, but actually make it a segment on Raw and let R-Truth be a judge once a week.
Who do you think is the judge, jury, and executioner in NXT?
I don't know, but I know R-Truth gavel's got a squeak thing on it. Like that. The judge, jury, and executioner on NXT are actually... Well, no, they're actually characters coming soon. There's an entire courtroom setting. Like, there's a fellow... Mike Judge, the creator of Beavis and Butthead, but he's just a wrestler. Mike Judge. Jury's in.
Sponsorship.
And the executioner, the guy that wrestled Tito Santana at WrestleMania 1, and they just pretend... It's like Buddy Rose under a mask in 85, but they just pretend it's the same guy. And he's got this, like, unbelievable... He wrestled at WrestleMania 1, of course, Buck.
Jeez.
Sure did, Vic.
Yeah. Booker T would be the judge in NXT if he could be arsed.
Yeah. He's not interested in that side of the business anymore.
Yeah. Will Russ gives our final question today. Great question. Thank you for this, Will. Morning, gents. With WrestleMania 41 being in Las Vegas...
We'll see you there.
What is your wrestling bad beat, i.e. wrestling rubbish that lives in your head rent-free? I attended the Raw where they introduced the wild card rule and the Usi Hot segment. I am forever scarred. That, of course, shout out to Colton, who reminded me of this, was the catalyst for my Broken Willborn character about 5 years ago.
You had a really bad day, didn't you?
That was just... I just came to work going, what was that?
I've got to cover that like 3 different ways
today.
Yeah. I have one, specifically.
Go on.
And it basically turned me off a wrestler for over a decade, and he only got back in my good books in 2023.
Wow.
Really. I was at a taping in, I think it was Sheffield, it might have been Manchester, a SmackDown taping, where a young chosen one, Drew McIntyre, was ordered to beat Finlay with his own shillelagh to send a message about how he's the new young gun. And he did it. And then he had this music at the time, this really generic stock music. It sounded like Def Rebel. So he does it, he beats him up, he goes backstage, and I was like, oh, that's Drew's a bad guy. And when you just wanted to say hello to a new guy, you couldn't. Because here comes Drew McIntyre again, music blaring. And like, I'm like, he's had enough, Drew. Yeah. And then Drew, pretty much in a way very similar to the one we just saw, just does it again. Just absolutely batters him. It goes on about a minute, he's like, he's had enough. Stop, he's already dead, that kind of thing. Referees who have just gone backstage come out to like pull him away again, the whole deal. I was like, Finley's like, maybe he's going to be hospitalised. Maybe we've really
going in on this.
Really seen the dark side of Drew McIntyre. Anyway, what's next? I'm looking, what are you doing here? Drew McIntyre back out again. He's like, you read the report the next day, like, he's obviously gone backstage. A mad old crank Vince McMahon. Don't like it, do it again. What I have watched is 3 identical, long, shillelagh beatdowns and 8 play-ins. It's the opposite of the Jey Uso situation. You would have that entrance 8 times. It's like, I cannot listen to and it basically educated me. I'm thinking, oh, Drew can't do anything right ever. Yeah. So I watched for years and years and years, and even when he was like the top, we kind of like warmed to him as a game show host, pandemic.
That was class.
Raw babyface champion, that was still a bit like, you'll always be to me, and I was just torturous. Like, you hear about these things where they retape a finish or whatever, and it's a bit weird. You just
it's so surreal.
Why am I here? What am I watching here?
Pretend that just didn't happen. We'll do it again.
Yeah.
Obvious one from me, but in terms of like being in attendance for it, I just will never forget like the high of coming off WrestleMania 35, your first WrestleMania to attend as well. The Raw after WrestleMania. Maybe it's still good. Maybe they're going to do... Oh, Lars Sullivan's here. Okay. But maybe I got to see The Undertaker.
You did?
That's cool. Mm-hmm. And then they're like, at the start of the show, you're like, champion versus champion. Are they going to unify the belts on the Raw? Jesus. Or, wait a second. Adam Cole lost at TakeOver.
Huh?
None of them have got titles. None of them are busy with other stuff. Oh my God, Undisputed Era is gonna like take over, and it's gonna be a new beginning. And this is, oh my God, nothing against them, but it's Cesaro and Sheamus, and it's just evolved into a tag match. Guess I'll watch AEW.
It's just like it was the bar, and then we looked at each other. The bar?
Yeah. Let us know yours in the comments though, and let us know your thoughts on everything we discussed in the comments section below. Like, share, subscribe, and why not check out this video as well? We'll see you soon.